Certainly isn't every day that an Assassin's Creed game comes to the handheld world, let alone a port of a main console Assassin's Creed game. This has actually only happened once, which is what this review is going to be about. The PlayStation Vita has had Assassin's Creed before. There is the backwards compatible PSP game Assassin's Creed Bloodlines that takes place between Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. There's also Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, which was later ported to main consoles as Assassin's Creed Liberation. What we're going to look at today is an Assassin's Creed game that at first people didn't think was actually coming to the Vita, but not only did it come, but North America even got a retail release of this. A trilogy of games that recently came to PS4 and Xbox One. Here is my review of Assassin's Creed Chronicles Trilogy, or simply known as Assassin's Creed Chronicles. The story of Assassin's Creed Chronicles actually takes place in 3 different time eras because this is a trilogy of 3 separate games. First is Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, which marks the exploits of the assassin Xiao Jun, and this takes place in the 1500s, the time of Khan and the Mongolian assault on the Great Wall of China. Then we have Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, which takes place almost 300 years later, during the Sino-Cinque Wars. Finally, we have Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia, which is one of the most recent games of the series to date, taking place in 1918 Russia, not long after the end of the Russia Revolution. Each of these has their own separate storylines that can kind of stand on their own, but they all surround the same artifact and they all come together by the end of Russia. The characters don't actually meet each other because they're from different time periods and different countries, but it's like 3 individual plots that come together into one large plot. Assassin's Creed Chronicles changed a lot of the gameplay for this small trilogy. Instead of being a 3D open-world action stealth game, this is a 2.5D platformer that is also an action stealth game. You'll be going through side-scrolling worlds, platforming, as well as doing everything you normally do in an Assassin's Creed game, like being stealthy, assassinating targets, performing leaps of faith, and everything else the series is known for. When you progress through the game, you choose an episode from the main menu, which is actually each of the separate games. On the main consoles, all of these released separately, but on the Vita, it's all in one package. So you go into one of the episodes and you play through the game, and then you go through the second game, and then you go through the third game. And you can do this in any order you want. When you're going through the games, you go through missions that automatically spawn a story scene and have you going through an environment with objectives, ending in a story scene that leads on to the next part of the plot. Each of these missions has you in very large 2.5D environments with multiple planes connected by ropeways and bridges, tasking you with various objectives, and the objective really depends on what mission you're on. You have assassination missions, there are some missions that are completely stealth where you're just sneaking past security to get out of somewhere, and there are other missions where you're providing cover for someone else who's trying to escape a city. There is a lot of variety here with all the missions, so you're not doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. One of the biggest points of the game is how stealthy it is. The game will reward you with points at the end of a level if you choose to be stealthy instead of running in and attacking enemies. The less enemies that spot you and the less non-target enemies that you kill, the better your score is, and the better your score is at the end, the more upgrades you can unlock for your character, like more ammo, more health, and other upgrades. Now, you don't have to be stealthy. You can go through sneaking around and assassinating everybody while still remaining unseen. You're not going to get as many points at the end, but if you don't care about upgrades and you want a more action-based gameplay, then you can do that. It's really what you want to do. One thing I also want to touch on is the simplicity of the game. A lot of the bigger websites have really been harsh on this game because of how simple it is. Now, the basic progress of the game is simple. It's a 2.5D platformer. You platform, you assassinate, you go to the end of the stage, you complete missions, and there you go. However, being simple doesn't make a game easy. Any fan of the indie puzzle world will tell you that. Some stages in Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, for example, have very intricate platforming to be done. There is a certain area where you have to beat an elevator up to the goal area, and you have mere seconds of leeway time, requiring very intricate, very precise, perfect timing with all of your jumps to avoid traps and barely get up there in time. Now, as far as time is concerned, here is what I came out with when I played the game. Assassin's Creed Chronicles China took me about 4 hours to complete, and both India and Russia took me about 3 hours apiece. Putting those together, and without accounting for going through New Game Plus or New Game Plus hard modes for the extra upgrades, then you're going to be spending at least 10 hours on this game. I don't have a lot to say about the controls of the game. One thing I will say is that Ubisoft really did good with the PlayStation TV. Not only is it compatible with the PlayStation TV, but the touchscreen elements of using Eagle Vision to check on your targets and using the touchscreen to grapple onto a ceiling can be done with the L3 and R3 buttons. No touchscreen alternatives required. Now, let's get on to the presentation. Visually, it's very difficult to gauge because 99% of the game has you very far away from your actual character model. When you really get someone close to the camera and zoom in, it doesn't look quite up to par as a lot of other Vita games do. But because of the angles, it looks really crisp and clear. Granted that the character models really aren't when you get super close, but you're never going to get super close, so I don't really see it as a problem. With performance, I'm very impressed with the game. The frame rate rarely ever dropped and never dropped to a significant level. The load times are pretty short. The only things I noticed was that there are a couple bugs in the game. The first bug I saw was in Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. When you were going through the cinematic cutscenes, a lot of them had audio breaks, where you'll hear some, then you'll hear static, and it'll cut out for a second, then it'll go back in. I didn't have this problem with any of the cutscenes in Russia, but I did in China and a couple in India. The other glitch I found was in India. While I was climbing a ladder, I got hit by an enemy attack and got to a point where my character model was stretching itself every time I moved. By stretching, I mean that the front half of my character would move and the bottom half of the character wouldn't move for a few seconds, and they would kind of glitch up to catch up with my character model. If I restarted the checkpoint, it fixed the problem, but it still happened. If you want to see what this looks like, check out my text review on www.reviewstogo.com/Assassin's Creed-Chronicles review, and you can see that under the presentation section. It's too finicky and didn't happen often enough for me to replicate in this video review. Assassin's Creed Chronicles is a trilogy of games that deviates from the normal flow that the series it comes from. Despite two very small glitches with the audio and the character model in India, Ubisoft has proven that the series formula can work well not only in a 2.5D gameplay style, but also in a melding of three stories into one large one, let alone making the same thing work well on a handheld. This is definitely a keeper for fans of stealth games and the series in general. Reviews2Go rates Assassin's Creed Chronicles Trilogy an 8 out of 10. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I'll answer as best I can. And if you want any more information, head over to my site at www.reviewstogo.com.